It's a Friday night on Parramatta Road, and the booze bus glows like a service station. You pull in, wind the window down, and the officer peels a little white mouthpiece out of its wrapper. Routine? You've done this a dozen times. Then he pauses, leans in closer, and says the 5 words that change the temperature of the stop. I can smell alcohol, mate. Here's what makes no sense and what makes it dangerous. He doesn't need to smell anything. Since the 17th of December, 1982, police in New South Wales have tested drivers at random. No reason required, about 5 million times a year. So if the smell changes nothing about the test, why say it out loud? Because that sentence was never about the test. It's about what you say back. And most people answer it helpfully, honestly, and hand over the only evidence the machine can't. He takes your license and turns it over in the torchlight like it's told him something. Behind you, the queue crawls forward, one set of headlights at a time, and somewhere inside the bus, a printer hums. Now hold on to the strange part, because the strange part is the whole video. He does not need to smell anything. Random breath testing is suspicionless by design. That's not a loophole, that's the point of it. Victoria switched it on first in July 1976, drivers puffing into little bags on the roadside. New South Wales followed on the 17th of December 1982 and did it loudly, with a road toll running past 1,200 a year and billboards on every highway. Queensland joined on the 1st of December 1988. The criminologist Ross Homel, whose research shaped the whole system, put the logic simply. It deters because anyone can be tested, anywhere, anytime, for no reason at all, which leaves a question hanging over your dashboard. If the smell changes nothing about the test, if he was always going to hand you that mouthpiece, why say it out loud? Because the sentence isn't aimed at the machine, it's aimed at you. And the proof is what happens next, because the smell line almost never travels alone. There's a question stapled to the back of it. And the question is the trap. Here's what actually at stake in the next 90 seconds, and it's bigger than the reading. A breath test becomes a conversation. A conversation becomes notes. Notes become a police brief with your own words sitting on page 1. And briefs don't forget, don't soften, and don't record your tone, only your admissions. Sergeant Ben McFarlane, a serving highway patrol officer, quoted in the New South Wales government's own explainer on random breath testing, says the most common excuse he hears at the window is 5 words long. I thought I'd be right. People don't set out to drink and drive. They do the maths wrong. A couple of standard drinks, an hour, a big meal. And the maths is less forgiving than they think, especially the morning after. So here's the promise. By the end of this video, you'll have one sentence, short enough to memorize tonight and polite enough to say to any officer in the country, that closes this entire conversation down. And stay with me, because there are 2 things at this window you can never withhold, and one question you should never answer. Get them backwards, and you can lose your license either way. I'll show you exactly which is which. But first, the part where the law is completely on his side, because pretending otherwise is how people get arrested. 3 things are not negotiable, and this channel will always give them to you straight. 1, you must stop. 2, you must identify yourself. Name, address, license through the window. In New South Wales, that duty runs under the Law Enforcement, Powers and Responsibilities Act, Sections 11 and 12. Refusing is an offence on its own, and giving a false name is a worse one. 3, you must take the breath test, and the law made sure of it with a piece of design worth admiring for its coldness. Refusing the evidentiary breath analysis is punished like the worst reading on the machine. In New South Wales, under Clause 16 of Schedule 3 to the Road Transport Act 2013, that's up to $3,300, up to 18 months, treated as high range. In Victoria, Section 50 of the Road Safety Act sets a mandatory minimum 2-year disqualification for a first refusal, double the minimum for actually failing the test. In Queensland, Section 80 treats refusal as if you'd blown .15. There are no magic words that make police disappear, and anyone selling you some is auditioning you for a night in the watch house. Refusal was made the losing move on purpose, so the machine can never be beaten by silence. So if the test can't be refused, what's left to protect? Everything that comes out of your mouth around it. The smell line's first job is the harvest, and the harvesting tool is the friendliest question in policing. How much have you had tonight? Feel how natural it sounds after I can smell alcohol, as if you owe an explanation, as if the polite thing is to account for yourself. Most people do. Just a couple of beers hours ago. Harmless, except it isn't an explanation, it's an admission, and it goes into the notebook exactly as spoken. Driver admitted consuming alcohol. That line anchors a brief. It will be read back in 6 months by people you've never met, and it will sound worse every single time. Now hold that against the law's own asymmetry, because this is the whole game. Under Section 89 of the New South Wales Evidence Act, your silence at this window generally cannot be used against you. It isn't evidence of guilt. It isn't consciousness of anything. It's just silence. Your words, on the other hand, are permanent. Legal aid. New South Wales, not a YouTube lawyer, the state's own legal service, puts it in one sentence. Apart from giving your name and address, you do not have to answer their questions. Silence is free. Speech is forever. And drivers describe exactly how this plays out. The 90-second breath test that turns into 15 minutes of where are you coming from? What have you had? What have you eaten? That's not curiosity. That's the harvest. And the second question is worse because it sounds like it's helping you. When was your last drink? Of all the questions at the window, this one sounds most like the officer is on your side. Here's why. A very recent drink, even mouthwash, and some brands run 20 to 27% ethanol, can leave alcohol sitting in your mouth and inflate a roadside reading. That's mouth alcohol, and it's real. Standard practice is a short wait, around 15 minutes, so it dissipates before the reading that matters. Drug education specialist Paul Dillon has described exactly how it goes. Police give the driver the benefit of the doubt, wait a couple of minutes, and test again. So the timing question feels like protection. Now watch what your helpful timestamp actually does. First, it lets them time the evidentiary test perfectly and defend that timing later in court. Second, and this is the one nobody sees coming, it destroys defences in advance. The timing arguments a lawyer might have run for you, the ones about when the alcohol actually reached your blood, die the moment you volunteer the timeline yourself on camera at the window, and notice how the doors chain together. Where are you coming from opens. How long were you there? Opens when was the last one? 3 polite answers and you've handed over venue, duration and timing, the skeleton of a case assembled by you free of charge. The friendliest question at the window is the one doing prosecution work. And whichever way you play, what comes next, chatty or silent, the next part is built to catch both. So here's the answer the paradox has been waiting for. The reason he says the smell out loud and writes it down. It was never about the machine. There is a charge in this country that needs no reading whatsoever. In New South Wales, it's Section 112 of the Road Transport Act, driving under the influence. Victoria runs the same idea under Section 49 of the Road Safety Act. Queensland under Section 79. And courts accept it can be proved by observation alone. Driving, speech, behaviour, gait and smell. That's the file the 5 words open. An impairment case that can work even if the machine clears you. Your admissions are its bricks. The smell plus a few beers plus last one around midnight. That's a brief assembled from 90 friendly seconds, and you might have blown under the limit. There's a third job riding along too. While you answer, he's watching you answer. Speech, eyes, hands, the divided attention read officers are trained to run. And the notebook catches you in both directions. Talk, and it reads nervous, over-explaining, admitted consuming alcohol. Go stony and rude, and it reads evasive, uncooperative. The file grows either way, which is exactly why the exact words exist. And if you want the scale of it, take one operation on Sydney's M5, 25,000 drivers tested, 84 charged, 0.03%. The machine clears almost everyone. The file built at the window is where the rest come from. We're close to the words now, but the American answer you've already seen will hurt you here, because the video you watched last week was American. In the United States, the smell is the case. It manufactures probable cause. Probable cause unlocks the test, the search, sometimes the whole prosecution. Entire careers stand on that one sentence. Here, it's close to nothing. The test never needed a key, and the part almost nobody knows. The smell doesn't unlock your car either. In 2016, the New South Wales District Court said it plainly in a case called Buddee. Judge McClintock held that random breath testing powers cannot be used to justify the arbitrary stopping of vehicles, the interrogating of occupants, or the searching of vehicles for crime detection. Licence produced, test done, the driver, in the court's words, was free to go and ought not to have been detained further. If police in New South Wales want inside your car, they need their own reasonable suspicion under Section 36 of the same Powers Act. The smell line is not a search warrant with a badge on it, so retire the imports. There is no Fifth Amendment here. There is no Miranda. Nobody in Australia is pleading the Fifth, and I do not consent is not a spell. Half of what it does in American videos, it simply doesn't do here. The Australian discipline is one line long. Comply with every direction and answer no questions about your night. That's the whole architecture. Which brings the stop to its hinge, the moment the roadside machine disagrees with you, and a second machine enters the story. If the roadside reading comes back positive, the stop changes shape. You're arrested, not as drama, as procedure, and taken to the bus or the station for the breath analysis. A bigger machine, a fresh mouthpiece peeled from a fresh wrapper, a printout that can stand up in court, and the discipline holds the whole way. You go, that's the body complying. You blow, that's the law satisfied. The questions stay optional at every step. In the car, in the queue, in the chair. Picture how this usually goes, because it usually goes one way. The driver who narrates his whole Saturday to prove his innocence, the venue, the shout, the last round, the kebab on the way home, and gives the brief its opening paragraph in under 2 minutes, believing the entire time that he's helping. Now the border twist I promised you. New South Wales gives its drivers 2 protections. Police cannot require the test more than 2 hours after you drove. That's clause 2 of schedule 3. And they cannot breath test you at your own home. A case called Skews confirmed it, and your driveway counts as home. Now cross a state line. Victoria and Queensland run a 3-hour window instead, and neither has a home rule at all. The same knock on the same car door. Lawful in Brisbane, unlawful in Sydney. 8 parliaments, 8 rule books. And this channel will always tell you which one it's speaking. Now, the words, say it with me once, slowly. Officer, I'm happy to do the breath test and anything else you direct. I just don't wish to answer questions. Again, because the second time is the one that sticks. Officer, I'm happy to do the breath test and anything else you direct. I just don't wish to answer questions. Screenshot this. Say it out loud once tonight in the kitchen so it's yours before you ever need it. Now look at what each half is doing. The first half satisfies every must on the record. The stop, the license, the test, the directions, offered before he even asks, which kills the word uncooperative before it can be written. The second half closes the harvest in 9 words. No quantity, no timeline, no venue, nothing to staple to the smell, nothing to build the file from, and under section 89, it costs you nothing in court. Nothing. Now the delivery, because delivery is half the sentence. Calm, polite, flat. You're not making a stand, you're declining a survey. The goal is to be the most forgettable driver of his entire shift. And remember the scale you're playing at. New South Wales runs about 5 million of these tests a year. Sergeant McFarlane again, any police officer at any time can administer a breath test, and nationally, only around 0.6% come back positive. If you haven't fed the file, the odds say the machine is your friend. Must satisfied, questions closed. The stop has nowhere left to go but the test, the ticket, or the good night. And now he pushes. Because they always push. The first push is the oldest one in the book. If you've got nothing to hide, just tell me how much you've had. And you say, word for word, nothing added. Officer, I'm happy to do the breath test and anything else you direct. I just don't wish to answer questions. The second push has a harder edge. You're not doing yourself any favours here, and you say it again. Same words, same tone. By the third time you've heard it in this video, it's muscle memory, which is the point. Then, when the test is done and the paperwork pauses, the fork. Am I under arrest or am I free to go? Buddee is the reason that question has teeth. Once the license is produced and the test complete, detaining you further needs a reason they can name out loud. Now the promise from the start of this video paid in full. There are exactly 2 places at this window where silence is the mistake. Your identity, name, address, license. Refusing is an offence, and faking it is a worse one. And the test itself, refuse the analysis, and you're sentenced as if you'd blown the worst number the machine can print, high range treatment in New South Wales, a mandatory 2-year minimum off the road in Victoria for a first refusal, the 0.15 equivalence in Queensland. The law built it that way deliberately, so the machine can never be beaten by silence. Your silence was never for the straw. It was always for the small talk. Get those 2 the right way around, and this encounter cannot hurt you. The reading comes back clear. The window starts to rise, and 3 things can still happen on the way out. Thing 1, the morning after. The booze buses run at 7:30 in the morning. School traffic, public holidays, the long weekend's second act, and I can smell alcohol at 8 a.m. means last night. This is where McFarlane's 5 word excuse lives, because the maths people get most wrong is overnight maths. 8 hours of sleep is not a reset button. The sentence works exactly the same in the morning queue, and it matters more there because the file loves the phrase big night officer. Thing 2, the wipe. In every state, a saliva drug test can follow the straw, and it measures presence, not impairment. The Alcohol and Drug Foundation's own wording: you can be charged when certain drugs are present in your system, even if you don't feel intoxicated. That difference is big enough to be its own video, and it will be. Thing 3, the passenger. A passenger can't be breath tested unless police reasonably believe they were actually the one driving or supervising a learner, and their identity is only compellable on genuine suspicion grounds, not on vibes. Same discipline, same sentence. And the 2 mistakes that undo everything: the over-explainer, who proves his innocence with the full itinerary and hands over the file gift wrapped, and the attitude test believer, who thinks charm at the window is protection. Politeness here is tactics, not law, and the notebook doesn't record your smile. 1 video, 1 state's letter. This one spoke New South Wales, with the borders flagged where they bite. Victoria and Queensland get their own. Now put it all together. The smell line has 3 jobs: harvest your words, open a file the machine can't close, and watch you while you answer. Starve all 3. Officer, I'm happy to do the breath test and anything else you direct. I just don't wish to answer questions. Then, when it's done, am I free to go? Alcohol deaths in New South Wales fell from 389 in 1980 to 47 in 2021, and drink driving still sits in 15 to 20% of road deaths. This is general information. If you're arrested, the video ends and a lawyer begins. Legal aid exists in every state. Subscribe, not for luck, for the next window, so you're never caught off guard at one again. And take the ending you just earned. The booze bus glowing in your mirror, the empty wrapper on the passenger seat, the window up, the road opening in front of you. 5 words answered with 1 sentence and a clear reading. But if the wipe comes out after the straw, the test that measures presence, not impairment, the rules change completely. That video is on your screen now.